Thanks for tuning in to another how-to episode. This how-to episode is how to make a switch cast. Let me show you what a switch cast is first. This is a switch cast. Looks easy, it's very simple. A couple of things to learn about it. First of all, why would you learn a switch cast? Well, I teach all my students that this is the foundation builder of a good Spey caster. It doesn't matter what cast you do. If you do a snap tee, a snake roll, a double Spey, there's a lot of elements from the switch cast that will improve those casts. So one of the best things you can do as a Spey caster is learn the switch cast, master the switch cast. It's an airborne anchor cast, so that means the line's going to come through the air and touch the water, and I'm going to make a forward stroke. And as a result of that, these casts are best learned with a Scandi type line or a Spey line, like a short head or a long belly Spey line, rather than a Skagit line. You can do these with Skagit lines. They're just a little bit more difficult to learn with a Skagit line because that short mass tends to kick around a bit. So pick up a Scandi outfit and take a little look at the switch cast. And as I said, it's a foundation builder, so it's really important that you get the essence of this cast. And there's three things we're going to focus on. First of all, let's take a little look at running through it. The cast starts with a rod pointing downstream, the line washed downstream, the rod raised to an angle, maybe about level with the top of your head. And then you're going to draw an L shape, but kind of like an L that is on its side, like this. Boom, fallen over. So you have a long, flat, horizontal bit and then a short, risey bit. That's the shape in your mind. And like any cast, if you can kind of comprehend the shape, the path your rod should take, you're probably halfway to getting this cast right. So it's kind of an L shape. What it looks like with the rod, right, there's our starting position, is the rod's going to go back nice and flat. There's no lift, there's no dip, it stays the same height. Once it passes your shoulder, you climb into this key position. Flat, up to the key position. And I always advocate that you find a starting spot and you stay in that starting spot. You're never going to get consistent at this if some stage you start your cast with a rod tip here, and the next cast you start your rod here, and then another cast you start your rod here. Those are too many variables. Get rid of those. Start your rod in the same position every cast. Have this flat stroke back climbing to the key position. So in a cast it's going to look like this. Here's my starting point. Sweep, lift, key position, forward. Into the starting position, sweep out to the side, lift to the key position, make a forward stroke. And then the only variable you've got is the speed that you do that flat base of the L. And I use this analogy to my clients of golfer on a putting green, and you've got to sink, say, a 30-foot putt. And you address the ball and you go, bam, and the ball goes 50 feet. Well, the next time you putt, you're going to go a little softer. And if it's too soft, you go a little bit harder. The perfect switch cast, you should have the anchor landing absolutely level with your knee. The anchor is the term for the piece of line that lands on the water. So with this analogy, if I start in the same place and I have the same shape L every single time, I'm just going to change the speed. If I get the speed wrong and go too slow, the line lands way in front of me, too far in front for a good Spey cast. The putt is too short. If I go too hard back, the line flies past me, doesn't land level with me. That's too hard a putting stroke, too hard a stroke. So what you're trying to achieve with this cast is enough consistency in your practice that you get the line to anchor and splash level with you every time. There it is. Start in that same spot, sweep out, keep the speed the same, bang, next to me. Same starting spot, out to the side, watch it land, splash, same starting spot. And that is because I've controlled my speed, I've got my speed right. So that's the essence of the first stage of this switch cast, is getting the anchor point to land in the right position. The next thing to focus on is the timing of that, right? A good anchor, like all the airborne anchor casts, if this rod is the water surface, the anchor should do this. Touch, go. Just touch, go. It shouldn't touch, settle, and go, and it shouldn't go before it touches. It should just touch, go. And so usually you want to watch that. You want to watch your anchor point come back. You want to watch the end of your leader where it attaches to your fly line, that little connection there. And as you go back, you watch that and you watch it and splash, go. As soon as you see that splash, go. And watching it does two things. One, it tells you the timing, but two, it tells you the location. Right? I want it there. So if I watch it, I can see if it's there or here or there and adjust accordingly. If you just look over here and your focus and attention somewhere else, you have no idea where your anchor point is in location or timing. So do watch your anchor point. Do be consistent with your starting position. Flat sweep, climb up to the key position, splash and go. And it's fairly obvious when you get them wrong. Let me just show you. So the right one is going to be this. Here's my starting position. I'll make my forward stroke as the line touches the water. There's the D-loop stroke, splash and go. All right, there it is, start. Here's the D-loop stroke, splash and go. That's good timing. If you wait too long, in other words, the line touches, settles, and then you go, generally, you'll find that there's a lot of spray. Just a big wad of line slurp and spray and noise. When you hear that, generally speaking, you've waited fractionally too long. And anytime you hear that, generally speaking, you've just waited too long and gravity's pulled the D-loop down on the water. So when you hear that, just watch your D-loop stroke and make sure your D-loop and anchor right as you anchor, you start your forward stroke. The opposite end of that is going forward too soon before the line lands. You must have an anchor. You must have a piece of fly line anchoring the water. That's an essential part of a Spey cast. So you've got to have an anchor. So if you go before it lands, you have no anchor. Let me show you cast. Same stroke back. Here it is. Go forward before it lands, and there's no tension. It doesn't even grip the water, so there's no tension. So the cast just collapses miserably in front of you. So that's me going forward a little bit too soon. So again, not enough anchor is going to look something like this. So I went forward before it landed. Awful. Just the right amount of anchor, the touch and go. It's going to look like this. Touch, go. And too much anchor, you're going to have just a little bit of line dropping. You're waiting too long and it falls in the water and creates that spray. And really the only other thing there's to focus on, especially at this beginner stage of a switch cast, is how the anchor lands. The anchor lands, and it should land like a plane, coming in at a nice gentle angle, touching and settling. Except it doesn't settle, but it should just come in like that. Nice and straight path, a gentle angle. So when you watch your back cast and you watch the anchor, look to see if it lands on the water, brief though it is, in a straight line or in a swirly, circly, higgledy-piggledy line. Let me just show you the difference between the two. Here's the good one. When you've got that line coming in straight, it looks like this. It just lands in a straight piece of fly line on the water and leaves. Dead straight piece of orange line, and then you leave. That's a perfect anchor point. Now let me show you a very, very common problem that beginners have. They put a little dip in that sweep back. For whatever reason, the rod comes back, and instead of going back in a nice straight plane like this, they put a little curtsy into the rod and then put a dip in. And that dip is illustrated by what's called a crumpled anchor or a piled anchor. So instead of the straight anchor you were just seeing, your anchor would look something like this. Just a great wave of slack in the line, and slack's terrible when casting. There's no load. So if you find that your anchor is getting any form of pile or twist or crumple, somewhere, almost certainly, you have dipped throughout that backstroke. So lift, keep the rod horizontal, sweep, climb to the key, watch the splash, and the moment it splashes, start the forward stroke. So one more time, the perfect switch cast. Start with the rod in the same position, line straight downstream. Sweep to your side, pass your shoulder, lift to the key, watch the splash and go, and make a forward cast. And that's all there is to the switch cast. As I said, it's a very essential foundation builder for anyone who wants to be a good Spey caster. So work on your switch cast. Hopefully there's a couple of tips in here that's helped you give some information and some knowledge about how to make a good switch cast. Get yourself a nice Scandi line, get out in the water and build up those foundation muscles. You'll pay off in spades with all your other Spey casts. Thanks for watching another episode of our how-to series. If you enjoyed it, check out the rest of them on the Rio website.